Principal Matters Podcast, episode 480. Hi, friends. This is Will Parker back with my co-host, Dr. Jen Schwanke, for another Principal Matters podcast. And Jen, this week's guest is going to be a dear friend, John Boyd, principal of St. Genevieve High School in Missouri. He's just an amazing leader. And this is going to be a conversation around how he's taken AI and just streamlined so many of his services that he's doing across his school. This is also coming out Christmas Eve. So I know some people are not even going to listen to this till after the holidays. So John, I apologize, but this is where you fell in the calendar, my friend. I wanted to just take a few minutes instead of a Q&A like we normally do. And I'm just curious to share some Christmas memories. Jen, when you think back to all of the wonderful experiences you've had, what's a favorite Christmas memory as you get ready to step into this year's holiday?
You know, when I thought about that, I have a lot in the last decade or so, just watching my kids grow up and establishing our own tradition. Well, I guess it's been almost 20 years now, but I do have memories when I was really little, and those memories surround warmth and fire, a fire in the wood stove. And one year I remember my parents didn't have much money at all, but my sisters and brother and I, we all played sports, and my sisters and I were all on the same basketball team. And it was the time, I'm dating myself, but where everybody got matching sweats, and like your name was down the side of the sweats. It was put on by like the local screen printing business. And my mom somehow scraped together the money to get us all sweatpants and hoodie sweatshirts with my maiden name, Moorfield, all the way down one side and Triway Titans down the other. And they were purple. Our colors were purple and white. So these things were shocking. And I have never felt so well dressed that I did. And that they were soft and they were warm. And I felt like, part of a team, literally and figuratively. So
I love that story so much. It's funny because I'm remembering a clothes story because, we grew up without a lot too. And clothes are often what you got at Christmas. And so my grandmother, I remember we would go up to their house. They lived about a mile up the road from us. And back then the road was gravel. So we'd go up the gravel road. And this was a rare Christmas because it doesn't always snow in Tennessee at Christmas, but this was a rare Christmas that we had a deep snow. And so we were going to do presents and eat. And then we were heading to the pond because it had frozen over, and we were going to go down and have some fun. And I got a pair of, I can still picture them, of tan corduroy pants from my grandma. So brand new pants. And I was like, oh, these are cool. So I ran into the back room and I put on my new corduroy pants.
Yeah,
and then we bundled up and I headed outside. I was probably 9 years old, headed outside. And as soon as I stepped on that gravel road, I fell down in the ice. I slipped. And I can still remember the rip right above the pocket in my brand new pants. And so I ran back in the house, I pulled them off and told my mom, and put on my other pants and went out and played on that pond for hours and hours.
Yeah.
And when I came back, Jen, grandma had sewed my pants. Like there they were waiting for me with that little seam across the top of that pocket where she had taken her needle and thread and found the matching thread and fixed my jeans, fixed my new pants for me.
That's amazing.
Just a precious memory.
Yep.
There may be people who are stepping into Christmas without someone they love, or they're stepping into Christmas and maybe it's a hard season. Maybe someone in your family's suffering, or maybe you are. So I don't want to take for granted that everyone's having the happiest holiday. But I do want to just encourage you to hold on to those memories, and remember you're making them for others, because there's probably someone in your life today or over the holiday. Maybe they're that kid who gets to wake up and feel the warmth of your house, or maybe they're the kid who you're sewing up and patching something broken for them. And I doubt my grandma ever even thought about it again when she did that, Jen.
Right.
And I doubt your mom realizes how incredible those sweats were, that made you feel like the princess of the whole town. But those are good memories.
That's great.
All right. Well, we're going to now let folks enjoy this wonderful conversation with John Boyd. But Merry Christmas, Jen.
And happy holidays to all of our listeners.
Let's take a moment to thank our sponsors, and then we'll be right back. Everyone talks about the power of data-driven instruction. But how do you actually get the right results and know the best next steps? The secret is iExcel. iExcel helps you easily assess performance and determines the best path forward for each student. Whether you need data for benchmarking or intervention planning, iExcel can do it all. And iExcel doesn't stop at assessments. It also provides you with everything else your school needs, from a standards-aligned K-12 curriculum to actionable analytics. iExcel's online learning and teaching platform is research proven to improve student outcomes, and it's used by 95 of the top 100 U.S. school districts. If you want to start driving real progress, get started today at iexcel.com/PM.
You're listening to Principal Matters, the School Leaders Podcast.
Hi, friends. This is Will Parker, host of Principal Matters, the School Leaders Podcast, where each week we bring you inspiring, innovative, and imaginative ideas for your own school leadership. And this week I get to talk to a good friend, Principal John Boyd, about maximizing your systems. John Boyd is the principal of St. Genevieve High School in Missouri, where he leads with a passion for innovation and efficiency and creating memorable experiences for his students and staff. He's a proud alumni of his high school, and he's returned to teach there. Well, you taught there for 7 years, John, and then served as an assistant principal for 3 years, and has now been the principal of the high school for 4 years. Named the 2023 Jim L. King High School Principal of the Year, he has served as the president-elect of the Missouri Association of Secondary School Principals. And he has a passion for integrating AI and coding and automation. He's developed tools from digital hall passes to real-time dashboards that have streamlined his operations and enhanced his communication. So with over 30 years connected to his community in St. Genevieve, he's committed to reimagining what those possibilities look like for learning and staff empowerment. He's also proudly married to Sierra, and they are the proud parents of JB and Emery. John, welcome back to Principal Matters. You were a guest on this show back in 2023, episode 357. It's been a while since you've been on the show, but it hasn't been a while since we've talked, because we often get together and collaborate, which is why I've brought you back to the show. So why don't you just fill in the gaps on that intro, since the last time listeners may have met you or for the first time, and tell listeners something else they may be surprised to know about you.
I appreciate that, Will. I am, for those of you that don't know, I'm an avid runner, and that is my ability to be able to stay grounded, and also my ability to be able to spend a lot of time thinking through a lot of processes. And so I go out typically in the morning about 4:50, and it's quiet, it's dark, there's nobody out there, and a lot of times that's my time to either run and not think about anything, or that's my time to run and think about everything. And so every day looks a little different, but a lot of times when I'm faced with a problem or tasked with something that I'm working through, that hour that I'm out on the road is my ability to be able to problem solve and think through and work through those processes and those pieces. And so that's something that makes me who I am. And so during my difficult days, I'm able to de-stress and relax. And during my times when I really need to focus and really need to think through things, I'm able to use that time for that as well. So
it's always so fun to talk about the things we do outside of leadership that influence our leadership, John. So I'm putting you on the spot. What's the longest distance or time you've ever run?
So I signed up for a 50-mile race. Gosh, it's been a couple years ago, I guess almost 3 years ago, and I made it 37 of the 50 miles. And during that run, I knew that I needed to run about an 8-minute mile pace, and started going, went through the first mile in 7:40, came through the next mile in 6:45, came through the next mile in 6:40, and I thought, all right, I've really got to slow this back to that 8-minute mile pace. And so I intentionally was like, okay, this mile is going to be better. I felt like it was slower, and then my watch goes off and I look down at it and it was 6:35, and I just decided I'm throwing caution to the wind and I'm just going to go for it. I'm going to hold on as long as I can. So I made it for 37 miles, and I was averaging 6:47 a mile through 37 miles, and then completely shut down at that point in time. So,
Oh my gosh.
But,
Well,
but yeah,
you're blowing my mind, and because I can't even imagine running that pace for me in my 3 to 5 mile little loops that I do, John. I'm going to pause for a second, and Emily, you'll have to edit this piece out, but my dog is like dying to go outside, and if I don't let her, it's going to be a mess here. So I'll be right back.
absolutely.
Thanks for that, John. Well, what I love about your running, John, because I've known you for such a long time, is that you problem solve while you run, but you also re-energize while you run. And listeners, I do not expect anyone out there to become a runner of 30 to 50 miles, but it is fun to know what are those things that recharge your batteries as you're stepping into a new school year. And I want to encourage listeners to go back and listen to our episode from a couple of years back, episode 357, and they'll get to know more about you and your hometown and why I just love St. Genevieve so much and why you love it too, John. But one of the reasons I asked you to come on to this show is because over the past year, especially, you have just really been maximizing your systems and doing it in a way that I think is so creative, using AI in a way that I've not really seen a lot of other friends using it for integrating coding, automation. So, would you talk? I've got so many questions here, but can you just begin by sharing um, how AI has been helping you think outside the box and problem solving in new ways?
So when I stepped into this role as high school principal, well, really when I stepped into the role of assistant principal, I was blessed to be able to work with my mentor, my principal at the time, Chris Haney, and he was big in doing a lot of coding, and the way that he analytically thought through processes and problem solved through systems and built systems within our building was really, really awesome. And so I remember my first year as assistant principal, I stepped into my new role and I was like, I've just got to use this and make it work. And then after my first year, I started to tinker around and wanting to understand how it worked and how the formulas worked and how we were getting things to talk to each other. And so he really started me on that path. So I want to give a huge shout out to Chris, and just getting me involved and engaged with that piece of it. And so we were using it, we were integrating it within our systems. But I'll be honest with you, it was so untapped for where we could go. And so then a couple of years ago, I sat in a presentation when AI was just really starting to pick up some traction and starting to get going. And the presenter talked a little bit about utilizing AI for formulas. And then formulas got me on the really the thinking of utilizing it for app scripts. And that's really what has opened a completely new world for us. And so we're able to start to automate a lot of our processes and how we do things and the way that we think and the way that we're able to take tasks that have traditionally taken us 3-4 hours to complete man hours. And sometimes that's our administrative assistants are sitting in the office and they're running some reports, and it takes all of us divide that up and it takes each one of us an hour. And those are our attendance reports. And now I'm able to hit a button and it runs in the background, and it takes a couple of hours to run in the background, but it PDF prints all of those and then I can batch print them. And so I've been able to take that workload off of our administrative assistants, and it doesn't add anything to my plate. And so those small little things have allowed us to be able to save time in those areas. So then that way we can dedicate and focus time in other areas.
Wow. So the way you've explained it to me before, obviously, and we'll talk about this in a minute, understanding how to do this is a time commitment. But then once you've dedicated the time to if, increase the system in the ways that you've done it with AI and Google Forms, for instance, a process that may have taken an hour before, once you've been able to automate it, a couple of minutes of your day now could be for pulling that off the printer, versus giving up an hour of your time to get it to the place where you can pull it off your printer. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes, the front end work takes time to build,
Mm-hmm.
and utilizing AI a lot of times it's a lot of back and forth, and it's almost like you're having a conversation with another individual, and you're putting in those inputs exactly. These are the rows, these are the columns, these are the things that I need it to accomplish. And then it spits it out, and then you run through it and you problem solve and you take a look at the script that comes out and you're like, okay, well, this is going to be a problem. So you go in and tweak this piece, or you work with AI to go and tweak another section of it. And so it's working on those small little nuances. So it takes time on the front end, but then the work that comes on the back end and the time saving that comes on the back end during the really, really busy times is something that saves us. And so a lot of times in my world, I have time over the summer. And so I build a lot of these things over the summer when we have more time. And then in the middle of the school year, when time is extremely valuable, I can hit run and it runs through the process. and it spits it out, and it saves me so much time in my really busy time.
Mm. So, I'm asking this question out of curiosity, John, and I've got some follow-ups, but um, take us back into the history of this whole process for you. How did you teach yourself to do something that a lot of people don't have the skills to do naturally? Like if you ask me to sit down today, Will, and begin to use the formulas and scripts and inputs with AI to do some coding with the forms you use, I'd be so perplexed. So take us back and walk us through how you learned to code, or how you learned to, because you may not even call yourself a coder, how you learned to manage these opportunities through AI to be able to do something you couldn't do before.
I think a big part of it is just the problem, being faced with the problem initially and saying, I've got this problem, I've got this issue, and we've used Google Forms and Google Sheets so much. I understand the language and them talking back and forth to each other. And so that part I feel like is a little bit of a skill set that's helped me in working with AI. But then once that piece was in place, I was tasked with a problem. And so I'll give you an example. Our assistant principal came into me, I guess it was right after the close of the first semester, and he said, hey, do we have any updates on, we were supposed to be working with a company that was building a digital hall pass for us. And he said, hey, do we have any updates on where this is at? I really think that this is something that we need to take a look at and figure out how we can get this in place. And I looked at him and I said, here's the deal. We've been working with this company now for the last year and a half, and they've promised and promised and promised and haven't delivered anything. And so I said, I think it's time that we just go about and try to build something ourselves. And so I said, this summer, I'll take a look at it. Well, this summer ended up happening in January, whenever we had about a foot of snow, and we had a full week and a half of snow days. And so I said, you know what, I've got a little time now. And so I sat down, started working with AI, and basically I started with, is this even possible? So I asked it, is it even possible to build a digital hall pass? And then once it came back and said, well, it depends on what your nuances are and how you want to build it, I then just started getting in and thinking about what are the components that we want to be in that digital hall pass. And then I framed out the form, and then I started working with AI to establish app scripts to get it to do what we wanted it to do. And it's been really neat to watch the evolution of that. And you learn so much through the process that you didn't even know was possible, that, yeah, it helps us on the digital hall pass. But now, once I saw one of the examples is, on a Google form, it will talk to and take data and process it on a Google Sheet. So if I put information into a form, that information jumps over to the sheet. Well, what I didn't realize in starting that process is I can get the sheet to come back and talk to the form. And so on our digital hall pass, we wanted to create a place where if we had 3 students that requested to go to the same bathroom, it would shut that bathroom location down for passes, for active passes. And so I didn't realize that I could get the Google Sheet to say, well, there's 3 active passes that are out there. It's going to hard code and remove from the Google form that as an option.
Wow.
And so we were able to do that, but then that opened up more opportunities for us in different areas as well. So we were able to utilize that for scheduling. We've got sports physicals that we schedule, and so our ladies in the office have been taking phone calls on people calling and scheduling sports physicals. Well, it so happens that it's right at the time that we're doing graduation, which is an extremely busy time. Well, now we're going to be able next year to send out a Google form that parents will fill out, and once 15 people have selected a given time slot, it removes it from the form as an option, and they no longer are able to select that. So that will protect that time frame, and we're able to digitally automate that entire process now.
Wow. Okay, that's tremendous. So let's come back to the one example, and I do want to hear other examples too, John. But let's come back to that hall pass example for a minute. And you were already trying to reach out to a provider for a potential app or system that could work. And there's some great ones out there, but you weren't getting the feedback that was being helpful for you guys in your community at the time. So you're like, well, let's explore doing this ourselves. So I'm going to go using AI. I'm going to ask the questions that I'm trying to solve. I'm going to eventually be able to get what you call the ask scripts that I need to be able to build the frameworks so that I can cause forms and sheets to communicate with each other in the ways where a student needs to go to a bathroom or needs to be sent somewhere in the building. and we're going to know who's out in classes. We're going to know who's in hallways, and we're going to know when areas of the building are getting too crowded to shut down requests for that. What does that look like, though, from the hand of the student? Are they doing it? What does that look like for the user for the user end?
So in our school, we've got an amazing technology department, and they have invested in us. And so I went to them and they said, "Hey, we've got some old Chromebooks." And so we have Chromebooks in each classroom set up, and they're in kiosk mode. And the student goes up, they fill out the hall pass on that. That's the only thing that can be accessed on that computer. They go in, they fill that out, that request out. They go to wherever they're going. Let's say they're going to the bathroom. Then when they come back, they fill out a return that they're back. And the form does some pretty neat things. It recognizes the student that left, it recognizes that they're back, and it moves it off of the active form. So then that's what allows those other options then to pop up. And so we've been able to create, just problem solving and talking to my assistant principal and talking to my teachers and figuring out what are the things that we need added. We've got a piece in there where email notification comes out if a student's been out for more than 15 minutes. It notifies the assistant principal and myself. We've got it set up to, I've actually worked with another school district to set one up where it's got a meetup notification. So they can input 2 students, and if 2 students show up as requesting a hall pass at the same time, it will send an email notification to whoever they deem. So this school district has requested it to go to them and an SRO and a counselor. But just that way they know those students are in the hall at the same time. So that could be utilized if there's a restraining order with students, or 2 students shouldn't be in the same proximity at the same time. So it's just continued to evolve. We can run a lot of data out of it. We can see a lot of pieces that come out of it. But the nice thing is we have control over it. So by using AI to build it, we've been able to tailor it exactly what meets our needs within our district, instead of being pigeonholed to what a company has.
Oh my gosh, John, that's so great. Thanks for that explanation. So right now I'm imagining listeners in 2 different camps, or maybe 3, but I'll just pick 2. There's a listener right now who's like, I'm so overwhelmed by even trying to imagine using AI and coding that the idea of stepping into this world is so intimidating that I'm just going to stop listening to this podcast. And then there's other listeners that are like, oh my gosh, let me know. How can I do this, John? Because I love to play with technology, or there's somebody on my team that does. And there may be some people who are just curious enough to try to figure out, okay, how can this help me? So that's one of the reasons I brought you to this conversation today, John, because you've been automating the systems for your school regularly since you began to learn these skills, and the hall passes are just one. You've done this with attendance. You've done this with so many. Think about all the different systems in a school, and you guys have been hitting them with these. What would you say to that school leader out there let's speak to both the hesitant school leader, and then we'll talk to the eager school leader. What would you say first to that hesitant school leader?
I would tell them to step out and just go in and try it, and try to take a look at one process and just create the biggest, what you think is unimaginable opportunity of something that it might do, and start asking AI some questions and figuring out, is that even feasible? Is that even possible? And I think that you will be surprised at some of the answers that you potentially get. And it takes time. And I think that that's the biggest thing, is not to get frustrated if it doesn't work within 15 or 20 minutes. When I built that hall pass, it took me pretty much 2 full days going in and building and reworking and retweaking. So, I mean, it took a lot of time. But now I've got a system in place that's saving our district thousands and thousands of dollars, because we're not paying a subscription fee every single year, and we're running it out of Google Sheets and Google Forms that we own. And it's not owned by another company. And so I think that's the biggest piece, is what benefit could that be for you and for your district? Another example, we created our own district-wide. I created our own district evaluation tool. And so we were contracting with a company. And this summer I sat down and we completely reworked the entire thing, and each building within our district has their teacher. They can do a summative, they can do a formative evaluation. It sends out that data. We'll send an automated email to the teacher with the data, and we did that all internally in-house through Google Forms and Google Sheets. And then each building has their own hub. I mean, it's evolved into something absolutely huge, but it didn't start that way.
I'm just smiling. I have to pause for a second because I can't help but be the proud teacher. But John, I've known you for so long, and the same curiosities that have always driven your work as a leader, teacher, leader, and even now in enhancing your processes are the same rinse and repeat, man. You're hungry for information, you're looking for answers, and you're going to use whatever tool is available at your fingertips to try to take it to the next level. And now you've done it in a way that is really optimizing your systems in ways that were unimaginable 3 years ago.
Mhm.
And so let's speak to that eager person who's listening that feels really comfortable with technology, that really wants to go deeper. What advice would you give them of taking that next step?
Carve the time out and do it. And I think that not being afraid of it, you're not going to hurt anything. You're not going to mess anything up. Just jumping in. And the nice thing about AI is if you know how to ask the right questions and you know how to continue to work with it, and it's just a continuous questioning, or it's a continuous what about this or what about that, or I'd like it to do this. And it's a continuous being very specific with this column has this information, and this column has this information, and this column has this information. The more specific that you are in those, the better results that you're going to get. And so that person that's really eager and really considering jumping in, my recommendation would be to them, dedicate the time and just see what possibilities are out there. You're not gonna harm anything. You're not gonna do any damage, especially if you're looking at trying to automate a process and say it ends up not working out. You've dedicated a little bit of time to something that doesn't work out. But here's what I've found. Every time that I think this isn't gonna work or this isn't gonna happen, it does. And I think that's been the neatest part about the entire experience is it takes time, and I walk away sometimes and I'm extremely frustrated because I'm like, I just needed to do this or I just needed to do that, and I'm not at that point yet. And then the light bulb flips on and I'm like, oh, because I'm missing this or I'm missing that. And so it's just continuing to be intentional, and it's continuing to work through that and not getting frustrated when it's not working exactly the way that you want, because you will get it there. If you continue to be persistent, you'll get it to exactly what you want it to be.
So thank you for that. And I want to come back in a little bit and talk about ways that you're supporting other leaders who want support in this, because there are some leaders out there that are like, man, this is way more than I can bite and chew. And I know you've been helping other leaders kind of navigate that path, John, and this has become a real passion for you. But I also want to take a step back and look at kind of the global view, because we all know that with any new technologies come both positives and negatives. And AI is one of those things that is revolutionizing the way to solve problems more quickly, get information faster, take really difficult problems like you're being able to do and start coding on your own. At the same time, we know that there's also concerns with students or parents or teachers or community members, including school leaders, over the misuse of AI, or none of us want huge databases being built in every community because we're also concerned about some of the environmental outcomes, but of the growing use of energy that it takes to create AI models. But when we have something that's available for us to use as a tool, how are you navigating with your students, your teachers, and community? And by the way, no one's figured this completely out yet, John. But I'm just curious as a practitioner, how are you navigating those conversations with an emerging technology with your own school community?
Yeah, so this is something that is fresh with our teachers because we just had our back to school PD, and we just had our teachers in and we had a presentation on AI, and it really got them talking and thinking. And we're having a lot of conversation within our district right now about a consistent language to utilize in regards to AI acceptability. And so when is it appropriate to use it? when is it appropriate with teacher permission and when isn't it appropriate to use. And so the presenter utilized a stoplight model in their presentation, and they said green means that it's good to go. Yellow means you have to proceed with caution and you need teacher approval to do it, and red means absolutely not. But I think that's the piece of where we're currently at, is we need to do a better job of being consistent with our messaging of when it's acceptable and when it's not acceptable. And I think that when that message isn't there, it leaves our students confused on, can I use AI? Can I not use AI? And I think that also creates a slippery slope. I've also had the conversation with our teachers. What are you assessing? What are you evaluating? Because if you're evaluating, critical thinking skills and problem solving skills and real world skills, our kids are going to have access their ability to be able to write or their ability to be able to utilize proper grammar, then we need to reframe the way that we're doing that. And that evaluation and that assessment needs to happen within the classroom. And so it's just changing the way that we're doing it. If you're going to assess it, you need to have control over those situations and be able to monitor, is AI being used? Is AI not being used? Because the AI detectors that are out there, they're not great solutions to being able to figure out whether AI is being used or AI isn't being used. The biggest solution to that is knowing your students and the relationship that you build with them. So we've really hit a lot on, within my district, a lot on building the relationships, the common language, and really focusing on what is it that you're wanting to gain from the work that's being done.
No, thanks for saying that. And I know we could unpack that in a completely separate episode probably, but I think the challenge for schools has always been, how do we navigate within the classroom? Let's just use that construct. Within the classroom, how do you identify and assess when student learning is happening? And if you're not doing that in a way that's multi-layered, that's just more than one, you're probably missing out on an opportunity to really assess the learning of your students. So sometimes that's feedback through kids talking to you. That's feedback through seeing those rough drafts they're doing with pencil or pen. That may be a written product that they've polished with or without AI, or with or without permission to do that. And so I'm not going to pretend for a second, John, that it's going to be easy for any school community to navigate all of these different variables when it comes to AI. But I think that the same wisdom you have to apply in student assessment is the same wisdom you have to apply when you're thinking about all these tools across systems or across your communications. I'll give you a really poor example, and I'm not going to call anybody out, but I was listening to a podcast a couple of weeks ago of an education podcast that I had never listened to, but I saw it on my feed. So I opened it up and I was like, wow, this is interesting. It's two people talking about someone's work, but these voices sound familiar and I'm not sure why. And then I realized they were Google generated voices that were talking about the content of someone's latest research or book. And I looked at this podcast and every episode was Google generated conversations around this person's education content. And I was really disappointed because I thought, here's someone who has discovered Google's tool, which is taking really interesting content and having it produced in a podcast form, but they're doing it in a way that robs the user from a real life conversation that is happening. And they're doing it in a way that almost in some ways feels like I'm going to tricking the user, to think that they're getting something that they're not. And so I just want to caution any leader out there that as you're navigating all of these different opportunities with AI, you will make mistakes. You don't always do it correctly. You may have to figure out what those guardrails are as you're navigating this with students and teachers within your community. But John, to come back to your question, which is what is the problem I'm trying to solve and how can I find a solution that's going to work? And then ultimately, how is this solution going to make student learning better, learning outcomes better, our culture better, our safety better? All those things have to keep navigating the use of that AI. Anything you want to add to that before I ask a follow-up?
Yeah, I think that it's just being so intentional being intentional with your message and the way that you deliver that message, whether that's with your teachers, whether that's with your students, whether that's with your parents and your educational community, making sure that they understand what your expectations are, what your teachers' expectations are, and move in that direction. And I think that that's so valuable and so important, because without that, you've got a lot of individuals that are just filling in their own information, and trying to guess where the district is at, or where the school is at, or where the building is at.
Mm. So, speaking about intention, I want to just speak to the leader who may be listening that's like, man, I can think of a bunch of systems right now that are so time consuming. How, John, are you helping leaders? And I'm just going to give a shameless plug that you've had requests from other people or other districts that have required you some pretty concentrated time to coach or help other people through this. So outside of your school hours, sometimes you're having to help people with this work, which is full circle. One of the reasons I brought you back here, because I was like, man, John, I want other people to be aware of what a practicing principal is doing with these tools. But they're if climbing that hill seems really intimidating and you'd like to have somebody in the room with you, I also would highly recommend John Boyd to assist you along that pathway. So talk about what that looks like, John, as you've been assisting other schools in this new work.
Yeah, so I've actually been working with a school district, and I'm just getting ready to wrap up the work with them on. I've been building a digital hall pass for them, and so I met with them at the very beginning. We did a brief little Zoom and talked to them a little bit about what is it that you're interested, what is it that you're wanting. We framed everything out, and then I started working with them. And then once I had it all built, I'm then able to teach. And so that's the biggest piece for me. And so the build part sometimes is what takes the time, but then I'm able to teach them how to utilize it, and then how to continue to maintain it for future use as well. So then that way, when I turn it over to them, my hope is that they, and it's not that I don't want them to reach back out to me, because I want to help any way that I can, but my hope is that I've done an adequate job of instructing them and showing them and turning them into many little coders, and ways that they can kind of look at the framing of it. And so the school district that I've been working with, the leader in that district, I got off the final Zoom with them the other day and walked away, and she had a big smile on her face and said, I almost feel like I can code a little bit. Like, I understand what this is doing a little bit. So it's also been an educational piece where I've been able to help them also see exactly what is it that it's doing, and how is it functioning, and how is it working. Because if it's a tool that you're using within your building, I want them to also be empowered to be able to see that piece of it as well. So it's been a neat process. I've been able to meet some different individuals and be able to integrate and build some things that I think are going to be impactful, and improve hopefully their buildings and their districts.
Well, I love that. Congratulations. And also just kudos to you for taking something that's working and helping other people to capture that same passion and momentum and learning opportunity for in their own work too. And before we wrap up, I do want you to be able to tell listeners how they can connect with you if that's something they would like to engage you in for their own schools. But I'm also curious to know, John, because I know your brain is always thinking about what's next. So just dream with me. What as you get to do this kind of work and you're thinking about the potentials that exist for tools like this to enhance optimizing systems or optimizing um, work that's happening within classrooms. I don't know. What do you think's next? What are some things that you dream could be accomplished that you haven't been able to do before?
I think so much of it is just continuing to look at what are we doing now, and how can we do those things better. And I don't know definitively what that is right now, because every time somebody comes to me and they're like, hey, can we do this? And so I will tell you, part of our evaluative tool and what I'm looking at doing in the future, and it doesn't necessarily benefit my building, but it benefits our district, is creating individual teacher hubs where they can go in and they can view all of their data. And
Mm.
so that's something that we have coming up on the horizon. So that way they can look at their formative evaluations, their summative evaluations, and have those in a one-stop shop. So personally, for the district, that's what I see on the horizon. Um, Outside of that, I would really love the opportunity to be able to engage with more leaders, and be able to help them in their journey whether it's empowering them and showing them how to utilize AI to get involved and be intentional with it, or if it's simply sitting down and working with them and their building and trying to help them solve, or even helping them do some of the work to solve some of those problems within their building. So personally, I think that that's something that it motivates me because it's a problem, and when I have a problem, I love to solve that problem. And so the lady that I just got done working with, her school district, when she reached out to me, the very end of it, she said, "I'm so appreciative. I really want to say thank you." And I told her, I said, "I really want to say thank you to you because you presented me with a problem, and that gave me an opportunity to be able to get in and try to solve that problem."
I love this so much. So let me just say this, John, because for some principals, this may not matter to them, but it's something I appreciate and respect about you. We are actually recording this in the summer, right before school starts. We're going to be releasing this during Christmas break. You spend a lot of your breaks, winter, summer, just jumping into problems that you don't always get to solve when kids are there and teachers are there too. So it's a tough thing to balance, like I'm taking care of my school, but I'm also solving problems in a way that now people are asking me outside my school to help solve. So I just want to give a plug to you, John, for your character and also your commitment to excellence, but also your commitment to taking such good care of your school and not letting these requests distract you from those purposes too, because I know all of that is a important dynamic of leadership, and especially when you're developing something new where other people are eager to learn it too. So how can leaders connect with you if they're like, man, I would love to learn more from John? What would that look like if they want to get a hold of you and just set up a conversation?
The easiest way to get a hold of me is email Will. And I don't know if you want me to go through my full email or not. If that's the easiest way to do it, you tell me.
Yeah, well, I know you've got a Gmail account, so why don't you share that with
I
listeners so they
do.
can email you?
So it's J Boyd, Boyd, at sgdragons.org.
All right. And if they want to find you on social media or LinkedIn, what do they look for?
I do have a Twitter account, Will, but to be honest with you, I have no idea what that handle is.
Don't worry about it, John. I'll put a link to your email in the show notes, and folks can definitely connect with you there.
That sounds great.
And well, John, I just want to say thank you. As we're wrapping up, any other parting words of advice or thoughts as folks are thinking about maximizing their own systems?
I just challenge leaders to think outside the box of what the possibilities could be for your school to continue to make it a better place. And that's what drives me every day. I love our school. I love our kids. I love our school community. This place means the world to me. And so that's what got me started in this whole endeavor is I've got to figure out a way to continue to evolve and continue to do things better. And so our school motto is family, tradition, and excellence. And obviously, I love the first part and I love the second part, and I love the tradition piece because we're so traditional. But tradition also scares me sometimes because tradition sometimes can come with the word complacency, and that is not who I am, and that's not who I ever want to be. And so when problems come my way, sometimes I don't have the answer initially, but I work through it. And I feel like this has been my ability to be able to give back to my school community in a way that I would have never thought of before. And so it's become a passion of mine. And I'm able to do it not only within my building, and we've been able to do some really neat things in my building, but I've also been able to expand that and start to do that for my entire district. And it's awesome. I know that we've got the evaluation tool all the way down in the early childhood center, and we're running it all the way through the high school. And so I'm able to have a positive, hopefully positive impact on every single kid within our district through that tool. And my hope is that I'm able to branch out and help other leaders be able to do that, because education as a whole is a huge passion for me. Kids are a passion for me, and I want them all to have the opportunities that I had going through school. But I also want them to have the best opportunity to be successful, whatever that looks like.
Well, Principal Matters listeners, if you ever get the chance to go south of St. Louis, Missouri, along the Mississippi River, and you find St. Genevieve, which is one of the oldest, originally a French colonial settlement, one of the oldest settlements on the Mississippi River, you will not be disappointed in this beautiful small town, beautiful Catholic cathedral right in the middle of the city. John Boyd, who's been born and raised there and graduated from there and now serving there, And John, it just blows my mind to think that you're using these tools to just enhance every system you possibly can for the school district, where not only you were a student, but now you're giving back over and over again. So listeners, if you'd like to connect with John or his resources, please reach back to him. You can find his contact information in the show notes. Or if you're just inspired today to sit down with your own AI tools and try some things you'd never tried before, thank you, John, for the inspiration. And Principal Matters, thank you for doing what matters, and we'll talk to you again soon. Thank you for listening to today's episode of Principal Matters, the School Leaders Podcast. If you enjoyed the show, would you take a moment and like, share, subscribe, or leave us a review? In fact, if you share it out with a friend, even more people can become a part of these conversations. Sign up for our newsletter at williamdparker.com for even more free resources. And don't forget to check out our website to learn more about our books, professional development offerings, Grow Academies, masterminds, executive coaching, and keynote presentations. Wow, let's keep learning together. And thank you for doing what matters.
Principal Matters.